thoughts on this, but I want to get back to Gatsby, but also when you said the kind of like a higher form of beauty is being like beauty of, I think if you read Symposium, did you read Symposium?
No, I tried. I didn't actually get to it. I read another Plato.
I read a little bit of it, but I think at one point Plato, I guess through Socrates or whoever was the character, was talking about the higher form of beauty being beauty of wisdom, or love. No, a higher form of love being the love of wisdom,
right,
and the love of beautiful things that are not superficial, I guess you would say, but deeper than that.
Well, that's a big worry, I think, for all of us, knowing, especially for women that are really beautiful. Like, and if like, I guess one of their worries would be like, am I just sought after for like the very surface level beauty that is fleeting with age and time? Yeah. And I feel like if men are just seeking that in and of itself as that level of beauty, yeah, they'll be disappointed too, and the woman will be left hurt as well. But if what is being sought by the man is real beauty, inner beauty, and out, like, of course, there's nothing wrong with being outwardly beautiful, but can you, I'm not sure that it's good for us to correct, to just lump the whole thing of seeking beauty might lead you astray. Because maybe seeking real beauty in all of its ways might not. Like, maybe that is a good...
Exactly, yeah. No, I'm getting to
okay, well, good. I hadn't actually I'm thinking this through in the moment, so I'm glad you've already thought about this.
I'm building it up.
Okay, excellent. Should have trusted you.
Yeah, no, but the whole knowledge thing, though, is interesting that you brought that up, because I was reading on Shaftesbury. I've told you about Shaftesbury.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about it.
He was a philosopher. He had this... He lived in the late 16th, early 17th centuries, when he wrote about beauty. So beauty was talked a lot about during the time of St. Thomas Aquinas, during more like medieval times. But later on, it wasn't as much in the conversation. Shaftesbury brought it back. So he started talking about beauty again. And there was
what year was it again? 1600s, so you said?
Or like 1800s, early 1800s. Okay. And he talked about... There was a lot. He talked again about proportion, symmetry, concord, unity.
You talk about this with some sort of disdain as if it...
No, it's not disdain. Unity of
not
design.
disdain. That was not the word.
It's not disdain. It's just kind of, it's the same. I'm just trying to make a point.
No, I think...
things
yes,
Aristotle.
Yeah, very...
We talk about.
Unity. No, I guess I just didn't go further than that. I don't mean to say you were just dismissing that as it's not important. Of course it's important. But I guess that's as far as like my thoughts on beauty, like that's all I based it on. So to hear more from like the feelings that beauty might evoke is good, because you're like I haven't actually delved deeper into it, so continue.
Okay. So, but yeah, no, he had this philosophical approach, which is fine. Not my cup of tea. But I like the idea of like not understanding, but he tried to understand it, and he actually went even further than Aquinas, and he talked about different kinds of beauty. So he talked about simple beauties and then complex beauties. And simple beauties he kind of referred to. So I was reading this book, it's called The Philosophy of Beauty, and it's by Michael Gill. He wrote about Shaftesbury's philosophy of beauty. So this is his interpretation of it.
Right.
But he wrote about simple beauties are like love at first sight.
Right. Yeah.
So whenever you see something and your senses perceive it, and you think that's beautiful, you don't really process it.
Sure.
And he said complicated beauties, complex beauties are more... You have to kind of struggle with it and try to understand it, and it may take some labor and rigor to understand. So some examples he used were like mathematical principles.
Okay.
Right? Someone that's very familiar with mathematical principles can see how all of the harmony of it and the beauty behind the laws of nature. So the way that Shaftesbury talked about this, he almost made it seem like the complex ones were higher. How he almost looked down on the simple beauties and said, yeah, love at first sight is actually...
It's good or not, but like...
Yeah, but this is a higher form of beauty, and I really took issue with that.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what you think.
I don't know. But at first glance, at first thought, it sounds reasonable. Like, I love my wife, not only because she's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's not what I want to say.
That makes sense.
I don't only find my wife beautiful because of her outward appearance, but because of her virtues and her inner soul, So I would say that comes...
But you're not reasoning.
No, but,
you're not saying she has these personality traits and she's very charitable to me. No, you just kind of intuit it.
Yes, that's true. And you're right, I don't say, you're beautiful and then a list of like why she's beautiful. Yeah, there's beauty there, you know. But so I guess what you took issue with the fact that there's different levels of beauty.
I don't like the claim that beauty has a higher form in the fact that you have to kind of.
That's a good point.
Use mental effort to understand.
Okay, here I'm gonna push back, but just because I thought of something that might contradict what you said. Not because I actually know that you're wrong. There's a beauty that can fade and a beauty that can grow.
Yes.
Like my wife will continue to grow in virtue throughout her life. I hope. Me too. I shouldn't use my wife as an example because she'll be more beautiful as every single day. But like, beauty, physical beauty, throughout fades, just genetically. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that she'll be any less beautiful. In fact, I would say that she'll be more beautiful because I'm not just looking at the superficial.
Yes.
So if that contradicts what you said, then I disagree.
I get that. I don't know. The thing is, right now you're talking about the specific example of
it's hard to disagree with you right now.
Of a human person.
Yes. Yeah, but I think that's what he was going with. Well, saying simple beauties and complex beauties.
I think human persons is a separate subject because you
and
have infinite worth as a human person.
Yeah, and it also shouldn't be exactly.
But you don't. Of course, I guess. Of course, it's superficial to say that.
No, but that's also maybe not what he was referring to. Like with simple beauties.
So he was referring to more like artistic, or I guess like natural laws, like the mathematical.
So explain again how he defined this difference between simple beauty and complex beauty.
He draws another example for complex beauty in an architect or architecture, right? So if you walk by a building knowing nothing about architecture and you see it and you think that is beautiful, but if you were to go on a tour of it with a guide that would explain to you, this building, the way this is designed, it reflects the light this way, and then
I completely agree with him.
You agree with it?
Yeah, I do.
Because then, now that you see the building, you see the way that it's designed.
Yeah, and I like your romantic approach to it, though. You're like, screw that. I just want to recognize beauty.
I think that makes beauty almost like it makes it like an academic thing.
Oh no, I know, but look, you studied like this painting, for example. Why is it here? Like, tell us the story.
No, of course there's
no, but I also want to hear it because you found more beauty once you understood it.
Yes.
I can look at this.
But I don't know if we should get into it. There's a lot of symbolism behind the painting. You
don't have to explain the painting, but I want to know why you were attracted to it.
I was attracted to it more after I learned what it was depicting. If that answers your question. So that is that is in line with the architect analogy.
But you also were attracted to it immediately, and you found it extremely interesting. And before you were even like there is something very romantic about like just being drawn to a specific painting. And like finding great beauty within it before even knowing why.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
I could say that about this one. I don't really know. Like, I love this painting, actually. I guess you can't see it. It's a picture of St. Augustine. It's a beautiful painting. I know there's a symbolism with him holding the heart and pointing to, I don't know, the light or something. I don't understand it. I haven't studied it. But it's a beautiful painting. Yeah. And there is a simplicity and a beauty in the simplicity of just recognizing it's beautiful. I don't really need to know more.
I think to me, the idea of something striking you without you being able to understand why it is making you feel the way
it's just more romantic.
It almost feels more powerful.
It is.
With the other one, you can understand why.
Oh, actually, you're kind of convincing me. Like, if something is more beautiful, it'll be able to just convince you of its beauty without actually trying to convince you.
It arrests you.
Alright. Okay, I guess I see what you're saying. That's true.
You open up yourself to it. You don't try to understand or reason why you think
okay, well then my analogy with the person, like the simplistic nature of like, the simple nature of like physical attractiveness versus inner beauty, that's not what this is saying. This is very different.
Yeah, because I think the same thing I'm talking about applies to the person. Because of
it does. That's why
that you don't explain Catherine's great
you're right.
qualities.
Yeah, you can just recognize this beauty. So I just misread what you were trying to say.
Just intuitive.
Yes. I agree with that as well.
Yeah. So I took issue with Shaftesbury, and that's why Negative Capability by Keats and the way that he writes about beauty is so attractive. But I also see, and I don't want to discard Shaftesbury because I think that's also a kind of beauty.
It's kind of like Dr. Keaton, Mr. Keaton in Dead Poet Society. Do you remember when they rip up the textbook? It's like, you know what makes a great poem? Do you remember this scene?
No. This is exactly.
This is so annoying that you don't remember this scene.
This is what I'm talking about,
right? He was reading this textbook. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher the scene, but they were saying like a good poem would have this I know nothing about poetry enough to be able to say what this textbook said. And then he's like, just rip it up.
Yeah.
And then he just goes on about like the passion that you feel when reading good poetry and the feelings that it elicits, and you don't have to have a mathematical equation to it.
And you don't even have to understand.
You don't have to understand it. Some poems are just beautiful and they speak to you.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with you. Okay, you changed my mind.
In fact, I think T.S. Eliot said that good poetry. So any poetry, he says something along the lines of you never understand it first, but you feel the impact of it immediately. If it's good poetry.
Yeah. Well. Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate one more time.
But I guess it's a romantic thing because I have read poems that are beautiful and I just have no idea and I don't appreciate it. So.
Yes, but yes, and I mean, good. Dead Poets Society is such a romantic movie, and it's like emphasizing that part of it, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think. There is also something too. If I read what's a great book, like a great well, books are different though because they're meant to be analyzed more than poems, for example, or sometimes movies. Like Interstellar, the first time I watched it, didn't really understand it. You maybe didn't need it, you didn't care. It's just beautiful. Like it spoke to like the feelings that you had. Like it just stirred something up in you. You don't have to understand it. You just feel it.
Frustrated though. You would tell me like I don't.
I was more frustrated by it.
I would be okay with it, but that
was your favorite movie. You're just like I don't care.
I would try to reason with you though because I know that was important to you. And I would say, yeah, but Christopher Nolan knows what he's doing. Like it makes sense.
Well, and then he took that even further in the Tenet movie.
That was too much.
I know. But he was like, just feel it. Don't even bother understanding. But I think there is something extremely romantic about what you're saying about just, I don't have to understand why it's beautiful. It just is. I agree with that. Like, that's true. But I just tend to appreciate it more when I understand it. Like, when you explained it, like, this painting I found beautiful. But once you explained it to me, I found it really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's what I'm saying. So in the Webster definition, there's a pleasure to the senses, and then there's the also exalting of the mind. And that's what Shaftesbury talks about, the beauty that kind of elevates your mind and that you can understand and kind of grapple with. And I'm not discarding that. I'm just saying I think that to say that the beauty, the mysterious beauty that kind of changes you, moves you without you knowing why, and discarding it, saying it's inferior, I think that's a mistake.
I agree with that, yes.
So Keats, in a letter he wrote to a friend, this is very relevant, in a letter he wrote to a friend on this, he said, "We hate poetry that has palpable design on us. Poetry should be great and unobtrusive, the thing which enters into one's soul and does not startle it or amaze it with itself, but with its subject." Just that exact thing we're talking about.
It's about, I mean, if I understood that letter correctly, he's saying, don't preach to me, don't explain your beauty to me, just be beautiful.
Yeah.
And something that is more beautiful will just gather. And I think the things that have survived for ages are those that don't really need to be explained. Like, it's just like people just get it. Mm-hmm. And like they found something beautiful. And like I'm talking art, for example. Like,
I think most people don't have the time to analyze. And
it's not only that, it speaks to like it's just intrinsic beauty within it. Like it's objective beauty. Like you can disagree, it's still beautiful. And it's you don't have to understand it, it's beautiful. And it just lives on.
Why is the sunset beautiful?
Yeah, it just
is. When you try to
explain it, you kind of ruin it. It just, it's like it's explaining a joke. Just don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you talked about not understanding movies, it reminded me of Ground Control. Do you remember Ground Control?
Yeah, I remember Ground Control.
Yes, for those people watching that have no context, there was this movie we saw. We went to this high school film festival, and we saw this movie called Ground Control.
Short film. It was
a short film.
10 minutes or so.
At a screening, and
made by students, like a high school student.
We didn't know who the main winner of the festival was, right?
At the time that we saw it.
At the time that we saw it. But when I saw that movie, I told you that's my favorite movie.
And I could not tell you what it was about. I didn't really understand. I mean, it's not like it was like that hard to understand. I just didn't really get it.
I didn't either, though.
I know, but you
were really frustrated with
I was, yeah. And I still am. But I think you're right. I don't have to. Like, it was a beautiful movie. Like, I felt things. I just didn't really allow myself. Like, it was like...
I still don't get it. I watch it, like, every year.
This is such a compliment for this high school student.
It moved me. It inspired me so much. And I have no idea what it means. And I wrote down I kind of want to read it.
Read it.
But it's so funny because what was the movie that won the whole festival?
Was it not that one?
It was that one.
Yeah. I know, it's funny. Okay, all right.
We had no idea. It doesn't really make that much sense, but it gives you the feelings. I don't know how else to say it.